Assalamu alaikum. Hi everyone. Today we are with Jeff Poole. And Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Jeff is a meditation teacher, is it?
I'm a meditation teacher, actively right now. And I'm also a Vedic astrologer.
What's that? What's a meditation? What is meditation? To start off with.
Okay, those are good questions. Meditation is the process of basically taking your awareness inward on itself to experience the quieter levels inside of yourself. And the benefit of that is that we spend all of our time putting our direction outwards, and that expends energy. And so the idea is when you reverse that, you're able to build up energy inside of yourself. And so there are a bunch of techniques for how to do that. Everything from like following the breath, which is some like Buddhist techniques, and mindfulness techniques and the like. And there are also a set of them that use vibratory sounds, which are used to charm the mind to turn within. And those are often referred to people, I mean, it's a common thing these days for people to talk about a mantra. A mantra it's a Sanskrit word, and the portion of it that means man, which is manas for mind, and then there's tra to draw out the mind. And so what these sounds do is they expand the awareness, expand the mind to its highest level. And so it's charming. When you close your eyes, it brings your awareness inside in a very effortless way. And so what happens, you spend a short period of time with that, it's like servicing your car, if you will. It gives you a chance to shut down the overload on the heart and relax the system so that it can stay in a mode that it operates in a healthy way. It rejuvenates itself. So meditation's really about that, more than anything, just calming down the system, bringing yourself to a point of balance inside. Yeah.
Give me some examples of some mantras which people have to chant.
I mean, there are lots of, they don't have to chant it. The idea is to either to think that sound inside, so it's done on a mental level, and because it's a vibration, it has a mental effect. You know, we can think of any sound has that kind of effect. And there are some kinds of sounds that are very supportive and smooth, and there are some that are kind of jarring. You know, like breaking glass is kind of jarring, grating your fingers over a chalkboard, that's kind of jarring. But there are some subtler sounds, even like the sounds of nature, the sounds of the wind, for example, or sounds of just all of the elements, the rain or whatever. Those produce a sound that's similar to like a soothing thing. And so there's lots of different mantras that are used. And
for example?
Well, one of the most famous ones is Om, which has been said to be the sound of the subtle energies of existence that represents the whole. And that sound really is an expression of sort of three aspects. There's a ah sound, there's a oo sound, and then there's a sound. And according to like the ancient knowledge about mantras, Om actually brings the energy up with the ah sound, which is low in the body, brings it up to the center of the chest, ooh, and then sound. And so it brings the energy up through the body and the vibration of it. It changes it as you say it. So the purpose of that is really to move the energy through the body, to begin to feel that vibration throughout the whole body. And so that's usually a sound that's chanted out loud. It's not really a mantra that's used for like silent inward meditation, unless you're going to be a recluse, and because that sound produces a withdrawing from the world. And there are other sounds which are, like the names of various energies, for example, if you will, especially like in different countries, like in India, they would say they were the sounds of the devas, for example. The devas are like the sort of physical expression or characterization of like a natural law, how something behaves. If something like maintains energy level, for example, it's been known as Vishnu, a maintainer, for example. If something creates a transitional state, they talk about it as a Shiva energy. Something brings alertness, they talk about it as like Brahma. So those are examples that people might use as a mantra. And there's an infinite number of sounds that come from root sounds of Sanskrit, for example. And Sanskrit's a vibratory language, and it has meaning and form to it. So when you say a sound in Sanskrit, it literally creates the sonic form of that, comes into existence, and so you can experience it. And so mantras come from that sort of sphere of understanding of life.
But are they, like, for example, if you say Vishnu, so in my understanding, Vishnu is the name of a god. But the whole understanding of what God is in Hinduism is different than
exactly
what God is in Islam, for example.
Yes, and it's more, rather than thinking of it as a god, it's like an energy that provides sustenance, that ensures continuity. So that's looked at, who does that, It's got to be something bigger than what we know. And so terminology like God is assigned to it, but it's an expression of energy that maintains things. There's an expression of energy that begins things, wakes it up from a standing point, and then it starts to unfold, starts to be created because it gets excited. The energy gets, increasingly more vibratory, and it starts to express itself. And then as it expresses itself, it becomes more of like what you'd say that Vishnu energy is. And the Shiva energy is the transformation when it closes out and it finishes off. And, Shiva is thought of as the sort of the end state of the vibration, which is the bliss, the feeling of the sensation that it gives in the body. And some people call that Bhairav, which is Bhairav. And Bhairav is just the bliss. And some people call that Shiva. Some people want to personify. It's not necessary. All of it really has to do with different levels of nature and how they manifest, and people call them by all kinds of names.
Well, the second one you mentioned you're expert of is something to do with astrology?
Vedic astrology, yeah.
What's Vedic astrology?
Good question. The Vedas is a very ancient understanding, I guess I would say, about, if anything, you could almost look at it as the operating manual of existence. It talks about all the vibrations that exist in our manifest universe. And when we look at that from the structure of our form, everything's a vibration. It vibrates at different levels according to the function of whatever it is it's supposed to serve. And so the Vedic knowledge is known as that knowledge of the Veda. And Veda means truth, what exists underlying all of existence. And so Veda is knowledge, pure knowledge, the way to understand it. So a Vedic way would be, how do you understand the knowledge, and how do you express it, and in how many different ways it gets expressed. And so in Vedic astrology, there's a philosophy behind it, which is called Sanatana Dharma. And that's the eternal truth. It just says we're all consciousness, we're all one. And out of that consciousness, we have created actions from some time before, some experience of existence. It sees existence as eternal. And so, because all is one consciousness, consciousness becomes many forms, expresses everything that we know in creation. And so, that science of Sanatana Dharma says when actions take place, they have an effect. Everything that you start in motion has an equal and opposite effect. And that's known as a karma, which means an action. A lot of people think of that as, well, I did something wrong, so I'm going to receive something coming back from it. And thinking of it in that fashion is a limited way to think of it. Think of it more as, I performed an action, it had a result. And so in Vedic astrology, it's the science of how consciousness takes form and how it diversifies itself. And then you experience, the purpose of it taking form is to work through whatever the finished actions are that you left behind previously. And the hope is to release those.
As in previous life.
As in like a previous life, yeah, or a previous manifestation of energy that set that in motion. And so the idea is to complete that, release it, and then not get lost in the form that was there and return to the consciousness. Unfortunately, most of us get caught up in the life again, and so we end up not really seeing, not really waking back up to the fact of what we were that we came into. And Vedic astrology is the science that shines light on that and shows what actually is taking place. And this is what have led people throughout time, ancient civilizations, to refer to it as a play or display of consciousness, or what they call a lila, or maya, something that's not real. You know, the real would be pure consciousness. The way consciousness vibrates into all kinds of forms, well, that's a temporary illusion, if you will. It happens from the vibration, it settles back into itself. And so what Vedic astrology does is its aspect, it's called Jyotisha, which comes from light, the eye of the Veda, the eye of truthful knowledge of what is, essentially. And in Jyotisha, you shine the light, you bring people's awareness to the different energies that manifest in their life. And when they see that it's not them, it's just this energy, they no longer associate thinking, well, I'm doing that. It's just that, okay, this part of my life is responsible, is showing up because of the energy that's coming from, like the energy of speech. The energy of speech has been like aligned with speech and skills and flexibility and research and humor and all those, and they attribute that to the energy of Mercury as an example. Sun is like the life force that lights all lives and gives life to everything. So the sun is more characteristic of like your soul, your power, your ability to just be alive, to be present, to have courage, the generosity to express what you are, for example. And so there's like 7 different aspects of energies that deal with things like your vitality. Mars deals with vitality. We talked about sun. Moon is just a reflection of the sun's energy. And that reflection of what you are is your mind. So your mind is characterized by the energy of the moon.
What got you interested in this?
Many years ago, when I was about 19 years old, I went through a transition as a result of a car accident where I had a near-death experience. And when I came back from it, I began to realize that I experienced something that was underneath what I normally thought was physical and solid. I literally was thrown out of a car 150 feet into the field, and I felt myself like thrown out of my body. I saw something that wasn't like my flesh and blood. It was more vibrant. It was like a subtler level of that. And it really made me aware that I didn't really understand what everything was. There was something more going on. And so I started trying to figure out what that was. It led me to yoga, which led me to meditation, which led me to an understanding of that most of the meditation came from like ancient Vedic knowledge. I wanted to know what that meant, so I began studying like that. And my curiosity really kind of led me toward it, to learn more. And it always appealed to me because it made sense. It was like reading the handbook of creation. How does everything vibrate to create what it creates? So,
who wrote the Vedas?
Who wrote the Vedas? That's a really good question. The Veda is really just a manifestation of universal energy. The best way to think of it. There's a state, as the way the Vedas would talk about it in the ancient Puranas, for example, was that everything was in a state of solidification. And then it started to heat up and became lively, and what was eternal that didn't change started to express itself in different stages. And those expressions unfolded into an understanding of how do you express outward and how do you get back to the state of the eternal. And those unfolded in layers of Upaparana, which is how do you approach the Purana, and then from
What's
there
a
to Purana is the state of essentially eternity, that unchanging state, and as it becomes active, it begins to express itself as creation. So all those various degrees that it goes through, which is where it first starts to get enlivened, and it steps out a little bit, and so it becomes something that's enlivened, Purana. And then from there, it goes into the expressions of the memory. So how does it know where it needs to return to, or how does it express itself? There's like a memory to it. So it's called like the smriti, it's called. Smriti is like the memory of how it retains itself.
It's more like a ROM, maybe?
What's that?
It's more like a ROM or a RAM?
That's a good way to look at it. It's like a holographic pattern recording of what it is. Yeah, it has to remember its form, and it takes on the vibration of that.
Which
And
is recorded in our DNA, or
It's just recorded in the fabric of the universe.
Okay.
That's the way the Veda would describe it. It exists everywhere. Everything is that. In essence, the Vedas would describe us kind of like a hologram. We're an expression of vibration that goes into a solidified form, and then it also steps back out into its many faceted forms. And eventually it becomes a sound, which is called Shruti, that which is heard. And so the ancient seers started to hear inside themselves, when they were silent, these sounds, which were the reverberations of their own consciousness, coming from the brain activities, coming from how the organs talk to each other through the vibrational electrical circuits. And they began to reproduce those sounds. And those sounds are considered to be the building blocks of the universe. That gave rise to Sanskrit. And so that vibratory language became personified as a physical form, and it had a script associated with it that was called Devanagari, that they said was the script of the divine or the script of the gods. Again, describing it as something that was more than what they could think of, and they would attribute that to some divine force, and many would call it a god. But it essentially is the way that nature communicates between itself and other aspects of it, and the way consciousness reverberates. So it's a lot of heady stuff.
So Veda was not written by someone?
No. It's
And-
not a set of texts.
And can we read it?
You can experience it directly. And this is part of what meditation is about.
But then you say that you can, there's like in Hinduism, there's Vedas which you can read. Is that something different than the Vedas
There
you're
are
talking about?
there are cultures that have embraced and held on to the knowledge, and India is one of the ones that actually has maintained it longer than anybody else. It doesn't really belong to any specific group of people, but India was one of the shepherds that really ensured its longevity and had all these practices in place for it. And because Sanskrit is a language, it's a vibratory language. It's like a language of your consciousness, and so contained within it is like all possible experiences, and as a language, it can be expressed in terms of like the stories, for example, or the way that it expresses itself in a particular avenue of the body. And so it breaks off into like 4 different distinct kind of descriptions of it. And I'm not a Vedic scholar, so I don't know I can take you through all of them, but there's essentially sort of the father of them all, that's like called Rig Veda. And then there are the aspects of the other 4 aspects of Veda that are like Atharva Veda, Yajur Veda, and I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on the third. Well, Sama Veda, for example. And each one deals with one of the aspects of wholeness. And then there are sub-limbs of sections of it, like Yajurveda contains within it the Upangas that deal with things like Ayurveda and Jyotisha, Vedic astrology, and Vastu, which is how you organize space so that it takes maximum advantage of that and provides the highest level of energy for you. So there's like an infinite number of variations that exist within it, within the Veda.
So most of the world is not enlightened. Most of the world is somehow hypnotized in this Maya or the hypnotic.
Engrossed in it.
Yeah. But some people like yourself and, like I read about Satguru that he was on a mountain and you get this wake up call all of a sudden. So the universe selects some people to just wake up, but the rest of them, what is their fault? They just keep sleeping. Is it in their karma or?
It's an excellent question. It really has to do with, as consciousness takes form, you get caught up in the expression of the form and you begin to think that's what you are. And so when people talk about enlightenment or waking up, what they're really saying is you need to see what is really happening. If you're watching a movie, you don't really see what's happening. You're watching the frames. What's really happening is light is being shown through these individual cells that are moving quickly in front of you. That's the truth. And when you see that, each one is an individual moment that expresses itself, then you begin to see what really is going on. So in our life, we just end up reacting to everything that happens to us, and we do it with very little alertness. So these practices or techniques like meditation allow you to calm down, cool down inside so that you gain a little bit of perspective and you're not like attached to reacting to everything, and you begin to see what's really happening. So you can respond. You can choose, I would like to do this, or I don't need to do that. And in our world, we tend to get so focused in the outward expression of everything that we think everything exists outside of us. Like there's something doing something to us. And the truth is, everything exists inside of us. And what happens is we manufacture, through our own awareness or lack of it, almost like fantasies of what is actually happening. But it's all happening in us. It's our mind observing these things. We don't ever jump from our mind into somebody else's mind. So we see somebody as other. They're external to us. But the truth is, there's only one consciousness. That's what Sanatana Dharma says, that we're just an eternal consciousness.
It's just all one internet. It's just a happening.
It's kind of like that, yeah. It's all the impulse of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of expressions and how it takes form. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
How can we help? Are there any 3 practical steps you can guide people to wake up? Is there like a blue pill and a red pill we can take?
Well, pills don't usually take you there, but I understand what you're saying. Like when you think of the
like
indication.
when we think of the world, which says everybody needs to go to school to learn something. What are the 3 things which the world should include in the schools, which should wake people up?
Well, the first thing would be to teach them about what they are and who they are. We have little knowledge of who we are. First thing that happens, we grow up and we get put into school and we're taught about what is out there. There's no education about, well, what do we do about our emotions? What do we do about our understanding of the world, and how does that relate to who we are? And what are we? The big questions that we ask ourselves: who are we? Why are we here? What's the purpose? Those don't get answered in school.
So why am I here? Why are you here?
Why are we here? That's the big question we all have to ask. We each find that out ourselves. And one of the ways you do that is by going inside and being with what you are. You're a source of unbounded energy and intelligence. But do you know that? Have you experienced that? Have you looked at what that actually means for you.
How do we experience it?
We can experience that through meditation. You can experience that through your breath. Every breath in, the breath connects the mind to the body. It's the most intimate connection between them. And when the breath stops, we no longer exist. Body-mind separates, and the material that we are as a body essentially evaporates as it decomposes into all the elements. But when we have the life force moving through us, the breath is what holds the two together. It's the bridge between those. And so we are, that bridge is the energy that gives vitality to the brain, that allows mental processes to happen and to operate all the functions in the body and essentially be the electrical impulse that makes us move. And when the breath ceases and leaves us at the end of our life, then we become like an empty suit.
Jeff, how sure are you of what you believe?
It's not what I believe. It's really not a belief, because belief doesn't take you anywhere. A belief can be whatever it is that you want. It has to be reality. What is? What really is? And what interests me is the areas of life that I explore that teach me about what that is. What's the reality? If I can't walk the talk and actually experience it, it's useless. It's not really a belief. If you can't explain it to somebody, then you don't really understand it. So that's kind of the criteria I look at is can it be explained? Can I understand and can I experience what I can explain? Those are key to me. That shows truth because it's what is. And that might not be what I want it to be. It might not be what I expect it to be, but it is what it is. And most of the time, we don't spend any time looking at what is. We always project what we think it should be, and we don't accept what's happening right now. When you can be easy and accept what's happening right now, that's when you begin to become alert, awake. You begin to see what is. It's not any big, cosmic, fancy thing that happens.
Hey, Hari. What is the one question I should have asked and I didn't?
What's the one question you should have asked?
I'll let you rest after that.
Yeah, that's a good question you should ask yourself. That self-inquiry. What is the most important thing to you?
I have so many.
Yeah.
But my hand's freezing.
So you want my hand?
No, it'll freeze too after some time. Then I'll be...
What's the most important questions you want to ask yourself?
Who are you?
Oh my.
What's your
Why am I
nakshatra?
here? Yeah.
What's your rising star?
Yeah.
What's your purpose on this earth?
Yeah. The rising star is basically what you're here for.
The rising star in Vedic astrology is what's rising on the eastern horizon at the time of your birth. And it's a distant star that represents sort of the movement of life through that section of the sky. It's known as a nakshatra. There's 27 of them that are broken up in about 13 degrees, 20 minutes each, roughly. And they go in a 360-degree circle. And as the moon moves through its monthly progression around the Earth, it literally points in the direction of all of those nakshatras, and they experience an expression of the energy that those fixed stars give. And so when he talks about what's your nakshatra, it means what is the essential energy when you took form on this earth? What was the energy present at the time that happened? And there's 3 types of energies. There's a section that deals with the first section, which is about creation, bringing things into being.
Brahma.
And then, what's that?
Brahma.
Yeah, and then once you create, then what you need to do is build structure to preserve, to protect. So the second set of nakshatras deal with those kinds of aspects of energy.
Vishnu.
And then the last phase of them deal with the higher level expressions, which is about belief in an understanding of what actually creation is and what you actually are, what you come from.
Transcending Shiva.
So that's what the nakshatras are
So
all
I haven't
about.
given you my details, so you don't know, but can I ask why are you here?
Why am I here?
What's your Dharma?
What's my dharma? My dharma is doing this, teaching.
Which is
Explaining.
It's teaching.
So Vishnu, you're
I'm
more
a
Vishnu.
Capricorn. Essential. My rising sign is Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of the zodiac that's the servant that serves other people. It's where you make a deep commitment to a long-term goal and doing something that's large, for example. So when you look at people who are Capricorns, they've done big things in their careers. They've created big worldwide organizations. They do big things as an example of that. And the nakshatra depends on where the degree of the star is at the time that they're arising. That it was rising in the sky when they were born. Mine is Uttarashada. It means later victory. And what it means is that if you continue to nurture the important qualities of life that deal with value, they deal with things like time and realizing that you don't have an infinite amount of it, that time's running out, and the principles of life, the things that are the most important, when you do those things, you have the victory in the end, a later victory. That's how it's described. And so it's a significant, it's ruled by the sun, essentially. So it talks about your soul, your power, your being, your prowess, your ego from that standpoint.
so you were probably able to look at your past lives.
Well, you are an amalgamation of all the things that's happened in the past that brings you here. And so at the time that you're born, all of the collective past lives, if you will, put you where you are.
Including of others?
Well, each person is an expression of that infinite consciousness, the diversity. So each would be whatever the vibrations of consciousness were that manifested as that person, would contain all of those vibrations in them. So you're just at a point in time, you are who you are now, which includes all of that past knowledge.
So not just you, but your grandparents, your
Yes, actually,
friends.
that would show up as a linkage to the lineage, for example. So not everybody manifested an energy that shows that they're like linked to or even care about the lineage that they're connected to, but there's a nakshatra called Magga that points to that. It has to do with the importance of the lineage, and this shows up in the sign of Leo, which is about the kingdom. You know, Leo is like the lion. It's about leaders and things like that. And it's represented by the sun. The sun is the key element associated with it, or the key energy associated with it, which is about a consistent fire energy, the element of fire, just consistent. And it's what you would call as fixed. So the sun just always puts out that energy. So those are the kind of aspects that deal with that. And that's representative of like the king, for example. So a king doesn't get elected. King like succeeds the throne, right? You're as part of the lineage, you become the next king. So Magga deals with that kind of thing where there's a lineage that you come from.
This is what
we're
I'm
having
wearing
gloves
now.
put on because we're sitting outside and it's getting cold.
What?
And someone's eating ice cream in
Alone.
the middle of this. outside.
Christmas
Alone.
dessert!
Alone. It's rude. You're getting really tired.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying this so much.
Oh.
I wish I could just drop my car here and drive with you to Colorado.
That would be fun. Yes.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Except I'm going to Iowa first.
Oh, I don't care. I just want to see you in the car with you. Can't we just like make a software or something where we can just find ourselves?
Can what's that?
Why can't we just make a website and we can just find ourselves?
Because we don't exist outside of ourselves. The best way to know yourself is to go inside, become familiar with what you are. We spend all of our day projecting outwards. When do we ever go in? How do we understand what it is that gives rise to all this? We have to go within to understand that.
Well, we have made eating fun, we made vacationing fun, but we haven't made meditation fun.
Actually, we have made meditation fun.
You have?
Yeah, I've been doing it for over 43 years.
Wow.
I started when I was 19. So I've been meditating more than half of my life. I'm 63 now. So, and I've been teaching meditation for over 40 years of that time. So I found that it was so beneficial to me that I wanted to make sure other people had the opportunity to experience it. And so I was always interested in wanting to be able to teach others.
Amazing. Well, thank you.
And I did much more than that. I
Yeah.
mean, meditation is one aspect of my life that allowed me to be the person that I was. I had a whole world before where I am right now. This is just the expression of who I am after all these years.
Well, I hope and pray that you have multiples and not dozens of books. You have multiples and dozens of course on udemy.com and coursera.com so we can go and take them. Because the way you're explaining is really beautiful and you're going into detail of it. I mean, I'm blessed that I found this teacher and this teacher. He's too excited to learn from. He's always going, it's hard to learn. Yeah, he's like, whatever that is. This man is full of ideas all the time. And this man is calm and a good explainer. So all of you are beautiful, and I'm blessed to be around these amazing teachers right now. Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
universe.
Thanks for taking the
Jake
time to
Dave.
talk to us.
Victory to the big mind. Through fun.
Sufan?
Fun.
The what?
Fun.
Through-
F-U-N.
Through fun?
Fun
Okay.
and happiness.
Yeah.
There's so little time to enjoy life, really. We spend so much time taking everything so seriously and being so practical that we forget when we were kids how much fun we had. And there's no reason to give that up. That joy is part of everything that we are. And we should always remember that.
Any suggestions for me?
For you, have more fun.
Yeah.
More fun?
Yeah,
Seriously?
more fun.
Don't be so
Yeah.
serious.
I'm not never serious, man.
No, just
Well-
become Woody Allen.
Woody Allen?
Yeah.
Like you? Okay.
And take some time to get to know who you are inside.
How do I do that?
Take the time to learn meditation.
I've
Have an
done 2
experience.
times Vipassana courses. I don't know if it was
Uh-huh.
enough.
So you've already had a taste of that. You know
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, I know
Yes.
it's a miracle. I know
Yeah.
definitely I need to do more.
It gives a perspective. It takes you away from all that action to see what it is that really gives rise to all that.
Yeah.
And you know what the sages say?
What?
Meditation is the best medication.
Cool. Alrighty, Sage, thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
man.
welcome.
I hope we can do this many, many times more.
Me too.